Hey guys, Mr. Decker here. We are continuing through Unit 2 Web Development on code.org, and we have found ourselves on Lesson 6, Styling Text with CSS, or Cascading Style Sheets. Let's go ahead and hop over to Bubble 2, shall we? And let's start coding. So adding style. This web lab project is using a new language to add style to the page. With a partner, explore both the index.html and style.css files. Be ready to discuss the following questions. What changes is this new language making to the page? And how is this language different from HTML? Also, how are the index.html and CSS files connected? All right. So we have our normal workspace here on index.html. We have our website preview over here. But notice that we have blue text and red text on the screen now, and it's showing up, like over to the right-hand side of the preview. That's interesting. So up here on line 4, immediately between the head tags, I see we have this link tag that's linking this page to the style sheet, which is this file right here. And then on the style sheet, we have two rule sets, an H1 rule set and an H2 rule set. Both of them have these curly braces to say, hey, this is the start of that H1 rule set, here's the end of that H1 rule set. First rule, the color has to be blue, and make sure my text alignment is centered. And that's what's happening over here in our preview. The text is blue, text aligned center. And then our H2 rule set, text aligned to the right, which is making this go all the way over to the right, and then the color is red. All right, that's it right there. And then over here, right, our HTML code is giving the web page structure, and then we're giving it style over here with our cascading style sheet. All right, let's finish and go to Bubble 3. All right, on Bubble 3, this icon means that this level is part of a larger project. Changes are going to be saved across these levels. Good to know. All right, so CSS and text color. This HTML file uses a style sheet, style.css. You can see that file right here, to give the page a particular style. The style sheet contains information about what each of the HTML elements should look like. Under do this, it says find the code in the style sheet, click on style.css in the files list that is making the H1 heading red. So we have this H1 here. This is the rule set. It's making the color red, okay? And then it says change the code for the color of the H1 heading from red to a different color. All right, so let's change that from red to, let's try indigo. And then there you go. Refresh and save. Now our text is indigo. That's a little bit hard to see. Let's try something like orange, dark orange. There we go. That's easier to see for both me and you, most likely, than the indigo was. The indigo looked like it was almost black, right? All right, so change the color code for H1 heading. That's all. Okay. Let's finish there. On Bubble 4, making a new CSS rule set. The block of code that gives rules for a particular tag is called a rule set. You can make a new rule set by copying the pattern you see in the rule set for the H1 tag. Do this. Find the CSS rule set in the style sheet. Let's go back to the style sheet. That's determining the styles for the H1 tag. That's right here on line 7. Using the same pattern, write a new CSS rule set that will determine the style for the H3 tag. Okay, so cursor at the end of line 10, enter down twice. Let's make an H3 rule set by typing in H3 space, and then those curly braces on your keyboard are above the quotation marks and enter key on your keyboard. So let's go ahead and make those curly braces. As soon as you hit the key, it automatically creates the start curly brace and end curly brace. Let's enter down a couple times so we've got room to put our rules in here. So on line 13, let's change the color. So you type in color, colon, and then you can choose a color from the drop down. Let's see, what would look good here? Let's just go with straight up blue, semicolon there, and then it should automatically update over here in the preview. If it doesn't, hit refresh and save. All right, so we set a different color for our H3 tags. That's all we needed to do, so let's move on. On bubble 5, we're experimenting with RGB values in the style sheet. Under do this, it says find the CSS rule set in the style sheet that's giving the H1 tag its style. Change only the first 0 to 255. So right here in the H1 rule set on line 10, we're changing that first 0 to exactly what it said, 255. Find the CSS rule set. We're on step 2 in the style sheet that gives the paragraph tag its style, and change the second 0 to 255. So down here on line 16, we'll change the second 0 to 255. And you can see these colors updating over here. And then find the CSS rule set in the style sheet that gives the H3 tag its style. So H3, and change only the third 0 to 255. So on line 13, change the third 0 to 255. All right, so we've got bright red for H1, bright green for the paragraphs, and bright blue for the H3. And then what that means is, so when you're doing RGB values, it's from a range from 1 to 255, or 0 to 255, and it's saturation levels. So if you choose 0, you're saying 0 saturation of that color, and in this case it's red, and then the second value is green, and then the third value is blue. So RGB stands for red, green, blue in that order. So that's why this is showing up red. Whoop, go back to the style sheet. That's why this is showing up red, because we told the red value to be 255, fully saturated, and then 0 saturation for green or blue. And then this, same kind of idea going through it. All right, let's finish there. Let's go to bubble 6. On bubble 6, it says using an RGB tool. Experiment with a useful tool that gives you the RGB values of the colors that you want. Do this. Watch the GIF below to see how the RGB color tool works. You can kind of see that working there, where they're swimming around to choose the exact shade of blue that they want. Yeah, right. So, and then 2, once you see how the color tool works to get the RGB color values you want, go into the style sheet and use the tool to give the color to the HTML elements on this page. All right, so let's see. Background white, H1, RGB. If I click there and then click on the little lightning icon, I can choose a color, and you can see it automatically fills in the red, green, and blue values for that color. I can go through here and change that. I can go through here and change here. So yeah, and then once you've got it nailed down, click that X, and so again I'm going to click on where it says RGB, click on the lightning. Let's go with a green for this, and then for our paragraphs, to make them stand out, let's go with a red for our paragraphs. So I'm not making it super pretty, just wanting to illustrate how that works. Alright, let's move on. So changing text size, we're on bubble 7. You can control other things besides colors by using other properties. Under do this, it says find the CSS rule set in the style sheet. So let's head to the style sheet and find what's determining the style for the paragraph tag. So right now, we've got an H1 rule set started on line 7, H3 on line 12, and then you scroll down, you'll see on line 31 the paragraph rule set. We're going to change the text size of the paragraphs and the headings. So right now it's using this font size. It's set to 14 pixels, or 14 px. If I change that, let's say, to 20 px, you can see how much that changes the size there. Under Show Me How, you can look and it will actually show you as well. Changing that font size from 14 to 20. And then you should see that updating automatically. Alright, let's finish there. Head over to Bubble 8. On Bubble 8, we're adding a style sheet. This is important, something we're going to have to learn how to do. So adding a style sheet, and this is probably the most complex syntax that you'll be typing in thus far. But this developer has been working on some style for the page, but has forgotten to add the style sheet, so none of them work. Under Do This, it says, inside the HTML page, add the code that will link the style sheet to the web page. All right. So we've got to do that between the start head and end head tags. That's line 4 for those of you paying attention. And we're going to link our style sheet to this HTML page. So we go link space rel, and whenever these pop up, you can type them in, or select, but rel quotation marks, and we're using style sheet here. Everything has to be typed in perfectly, otherwise it's not going to work for you. We're going to space here, href, choosing href, and then we're linking the file name. So we're going to say style.css, and then click out here, and we're going to add the greater than symbol, and automatically it has now linked our style sheet to our HTML file, and it's given our website some style. Right? As long as you've got this typed perfectly, it will work. So what we're saying is, hey computer, I'm going to link my style sheet. You're telling it what you're linking, and then the href gets or equals, we're telling it which file to pull the information from. Let's finish. And now we've got a lot of practice to do, so let's burn through it. We've got 9a. And for this one, it says that they expected the paragraph font size to be 24 pixels, but instead it's the default size. So let's go straight to the style sheet. So right here, font size is not all one. It is one word, but we need a dash there. And now it's updated, so it should be font dash size 24px. Let's finish. Now let's do 9b. Debug the missing paragraph, or debug the missing paragraph style, sorry. All right, we've got a link to our style sheet. That looks right. The paragraph color is gray, but or they wanted the paragraph to be gray, but it ended up being black. So let's take a look. Oh, okay. So this is an easy one. They forgot to put in their curly braces, so let's put those in for them. And then now the text is gray in the preview. So let's finish there. 9c, debug the missing heading style. And this time they expected the heading color to be green, but instead it's black. So something's not quite working for that H1. Oh, see, they did the wrong kind of brace there. They'd used regular brackets instead of curly braces. So again, just making sure the curly braces are in there and in the right place. And now our title is green. So let's move on. 9D, debugging the RGB color style. Now on this one, it says they expected the title background would be a light purple, subheadings would be a shade of purple, and instead the title background's white and the subheadings are black. So let's go ahead and look at our style sheet and see what the problem might be. Let's see, H1, background color, font weight bold. And they wanted the subheadings to be a shade of purple. Oh, instead of RGB right here, it says RBG. So let's fix that, RGB. There, that fixes that. And then down here, what's our problem on these subheadings? They should be a shade of purple. RGB. Oh, no parentheses. Let's fix that. And the parentheses are a little bit over there, so let's fix that. And that's done. Done and done. Let's go. All right. All right. 9E. Debugging again. What they expected to happen was that heading 1 color would be blue, heading 2 would be green, paragraph font is 12 pixels. Oh, there's no link. There's no link to the style sheet, so let's create that. Link. What does that look like? Link. Hang on. Hang on, y'all. Hang on now. Let's go back here. Let's copy this from bubble 7. Control C. Work smarter, not harder, right, fam? Okay. Let's go back to debug the missing styles. And then right. Uh-oh. Okay. Yep, it remembered what I started typing. I'm going to put that down here as a reference. I need to practice this. So let's link space rel equals style sheet space href href equals style.css, and then we end it just like that. And let's take this out of there. All right, now our style sheet is linked and everything's showing up as intended. All right, let's finish there. And then add a heading rule set, E. Here's an opportunity to be creative and customize the heading. Do this, add a rule set for the heading. All right, so style sheet, cursor here, let's make that H1. Well, let's make sure it is an H1. Elephants is an H1, okay. Curly braces, enter down a couple times. Let's change the color to an RGB value. And I guess 0, 0, 0, whoop. 0, 0, 0, and then semicolon out at the end. Let's click here. Let's choose a color. Let's go with some kind of blue. That works for me. And then let's do a text decoration. You haven't seen that yet. And let's do an underline since this is our title. There we go. Now let's do a font size. And let's go with 40 px semicolon. Make that a little bit larger. And there we go. There's a rule set for our heading. Okay, finish. And let's do 9G. We're getting creative again. We're going to customize the paragraph this time. So let's add some space to do that. P for paragraph, curly braces, enter down. And let's do color for our paragraph. And let's just pick a color from here this time. Chocolate will work for me. Selling a used television. And then let's change the font size. Let's change it to 20 px. Make it easy for our readers. There we go. Let's finish. And then adding a style sheet. H. 9H, whenever we get there. All right, here's an opportunity to be creative and practice everything we learned about style. Do this, add a style sheet and rule set. So to add a style sheet, you click right here where it says add CSS. And then we're going to want to change this, rename to style.css, enter. And then back over here, we're going to need to link it, so let's do that. We're going to create space between our head tags, so we have a blank line 9, link, rel, equals, quotation, style sheet, move the cursor, space, href, and we're linking to our style sheet, closing it. All right, but right now we have nothing over here, but we do have some rule sets for, it looks like for H1, and then the paragraphs and the background. Let's change the background color, shall we? Let's click here and let's choose something kind of lighter in shade. We're talking about flowers, so a nice light blue background might work. And then for our paragraphs, let's make them stand out a little bit more by choosing a different color other than black. There we go. That stands out well. And then let's choose a new color for our H1. Make it stand out real nice. Let's go with coral. That works for me. And then semicolon, and then let's change the font size of it. 50px, make it nice and big. Let's add a text decoration to underline it. Semicolon. And then for our, I think they're H3s, let's underline those as well. Curly braces, text decoration, underline, semicolon. You've always got to add your semicolon to tell the computer that that's the end of that particular rule. Oh, maybe we've got some H2s as well. So I'm going to copy this code, Control-C, Control-V, and then let's change this H2 to an H3. Refresh and save, or yeah, we do want that to be an H2. Refresh and save, there we go. All right, very good. Let's finish there. Let's finish here. Let's hop over to Bubble 10. On Bubble 10, here's an opportunity to be creative and have some fun with styles. Do this, link the style sheet. All right, so let's go ahead and link it. REL, style sheet, href, linking it to the style sheet file here. All right, so link the style sheet to the web page, make the text, paragraph text a different size. All right, so P, curly braces, paragraph text a different size, so font dash size, and then let's make it 20px, semicolon, whoop, semicolon. Make the paragraph text a different color. Burley wood, and then it's your choice whether to use a named color or use an RGB color. Okay, very good. All right, is that all it wanted us to do? I suppose so. Let's finish there. You know what to do here. Answer those questions in the text entry field. And then on Bubble 12, we've got some challenges. Extra code font family. So we're on 12A. Changing the font. Find the CSS rule set in the style sheet that determines the style for the paragraph tag. So let's go to the style sheet. Line 9 is where our paragraph rule set is. And specifically, we're looking for changing the font family to anything we like. So let's do that. Let's take cursive out here. And then does it give us options? No. So best thing to do here is just start typing font family, select it, and then choose from this list. We'll go with fantasy for now, semicolon. and then add a font family rule for the H1 or H3 tags. So let's do that as well. Cursor at the end of line 6, make some space in that rule set, font family, select it. We'll go with inherit on that one, just so you can see what that looks like. And there you go. All right, let's finish there and continue. Extra code underlining. We've done that already in this video, but you may not have learned it outside of my video, so let's hop to it. Underlining, find the code in the style sheet that makes the H4 tag double underlined. That's this text decoration on line 9. And then choose from, change the text decoration to do something else. So let's take this all the way out. Text decoration, so it gives us the drop down to choose. And just for fun, let's try the line through, so you see what that does. Maybe we're saying it's not important now with that line strike through or line through. Change the decoration to something else. Choose from, yep, we did that. And then 3, add a text decoration property for the paragraph, H1, H2, or H3 tag. So let's do that for the H1 tag. I like to underline my titles. So text decoration, underline, there we go. And then for H4, or what are these where it says step 1? Let's do one more thing. Those are H2s. So let's add a H2 rule set down here. Space, curly braces, and we're just going to do an overline for these. Text decoration, so you can see what that looks like. Overline, semicolon. There you go. And then I like that because it separates the steps a little bit better for the eyes. Let's finish. All right, extra code aligning text. Let's go ahead and head to the style sheet. The text align property sets the horizontal side-to-side position of the text within each line, so left to right or right to left, either way. Under do this, it says find the CSS code that is making the from Wikipedia and the HC tag align to the right. You see the from Wikipedia over here in the preview. And we have this H6 rule set starting on line 7 through line 9, and the one rule in there is text align right. We're going to change the H1 tag, step 2, so that it is aligned to the center of the page. So H1 text align center semicolon, and there we go. And then change the alignment of the paragraph tag too. So let's go down to paragraph, create some space, text align. Let's go with center there also. There we go. Now you understand how that works. Let's finish. And now we're doing 12D letter spacing. Once it will finally go. All right. The letter spacing property sets the space between each letter between text elements. Find the CSS code that is making the letters in orchids in the H1 tag be spaced out more than normal. So we have this on line 5, letter spacing rule, colon, 5 pixels. So let's mess with that. If we put 10, if we put 20, right, and you're seeing that happen here live, let's try 30. I think originally it was 5, so let's leave it at that. And then change the H2 tag so the letters are spaced out by 2 pixels. So let's find the H2 tag. Let's create some space within that rule set to add the letter spacing option. So letter spacing, and then let's do 2px like it asked, semicolon. That spaces that out for us. And then change the letter spacings of the paragraphs and the H3 tags as well. So let's do letter spacing again here. And let's try 3px, semicolon. And then for the paragraph, let's see what happens if we use a big number. Big number, like 100px. Whoa, okay. So now you see, that's like impossible to read now. Let's see what 50px looks like. Still hard to read. 20px. I can read it now, but man, I don't want to. 10px. Still don't want to read it. 5px. Let's, woof. 3px. All right, yeah. 3 is fine. I can read 3. All right, let's finish there. And then extra code text shadow. The text shadow property sets a shadow for the text elements. Under do this, it says find the CSS code that is giving the letters in Stradivarius violins a shadow in the H1 tag. Okay, so let's go to this style sheet. H1 rule set text shadow minus 2px 2px black. What? Okay. Give the H2 tag a shadow space 2 pixels to the right and up from the original text. Okay. All right, so let's create some space in the H2 rule set to do that. Text shadow. Let's select it. Oh, we get no options. Okay, cool. It says 2 pixels to the right, 2px and up. Maybe minus 2px there, and then black, semicolon. Oh, it helps when you spell things right. Okay, I think that's what it wanted, and up. Now the shadow is up. Cool. Give a text shadow to other tags as well. So we also have this H3. So let's do a text shadow for that one. Dash shadow. And let's give it the same, or like, let's mess around with it. Minus 4px, 4px, black. Whoa, let's try pink. Oh, neat. Okay, I like that. And then the paragraphs, okay, give a text shadow to other tags as well. We're gonna do it. It might be difficult for the eyes to read it, but you asked for it. Text shadow. Let's do minus 1px. Whoops. 1px. Oh, now it just looks blurry, doesn't it? Ew. And then let's try gray. Semicolon. Yeah, it makes it look like when I take my glasses off. That's what text looks like when I'm not wearing glasses. That's terrible. All right. Sure. Yeah, shadows. I probably wouldn't use shadows for paragraphs. Maybe, yeah, for titles, or headings, but definitely not for paragraphs. Okay, that's it for me. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. We're finally starting to learn how to add color to our web pages. Specifically, right, we learned how to add color to the text today. And then with the challenges, we learned how to do some more cool stuff, like font family, underlining, the shadow thing. That was interesting. Okay. See you next time, guys.